In 1916, the skies above Verdun, France, became the crucible for a new kind of warfare. Below, one of history's longest and bloodiest battles raged. But above, something revolutionary was happening. This wasn't just about reconnaissance anymore. It was about dominance. This is the story of the birth of air superiority, where the airplane transformed from a simple scout into a deadly weapon of war. Before Verdun, aircraft were mainly used for spotting enemy positions. They were fragile, slow, and often unarmed. Pilots from opposing sides would sometimes just wave at each other as they passed. But as the stalemate of trench warfare dragged on, both the French and the Germans realized the strategic advantage of controlling the air. If you could blind the enemy's artillery spotters and protect your own, you could dictate the battle on the ground. This simple idea sparked an arms race in the sky. The Germans were the first to make a decisive move. They concentrated their best pilots and planes into specialized hunting squadrons, known as Jagdstaffel, or Justice for short. Their mission was clear: sweep the French from the skies. This was the birth of the fighter squadron, a concept that still defines air forces today. The initial result was devastating for the French. German Fokker Indeker monoplanes, equipped with a revolutionary synchronized machine gun that fired through the propeller arc, wreaked havoc. This period became known as the Fokker Scourge. The French air service, the aéronautique militaire, was caught off guard. Their pilots were brave, but their planes were outmatched. Morale plummeted as French observation planes were shot down in droves. General Philippe Pétain, commanding the French forces at Verdun, famously declared, "They are sweeping the sky." He demanded a response, and he got one. The French counterattack in the air was swift and innovative. They rushed new superior aircraft to the front, most notably the Nieuport 11, nicknamed the BB because of its small size. It was faster and more maneuverable than the Fokker. The French also adopted the German strategy, forming their own dedicated fighter units, the Escadrilles de Chasse. They began flying in organized formations, a stark contrast to the lone wolf tactics of the early war. The tide began to turn. The skies over Verdun became a swirling, chaotic dogfight, a hornet's nest, as one pilot described it. This intense aerial combat gave rise to a new kind of hero, the fighter ace. These were the pilots who mastered the deadly art of aerial combat, racking up 5 or more confirmed victories. For Germany, the master strategist was Oswald Balke. He wasn't just a skilled pilot, he was a brilliant tactician. He created the Dicta Balke, a set of fundamental rules for air combat. Principles like attack from the sun, always keep your eye on the enemy, and attack in groups of 4 or 6 are still taught to fighter pilots today. Balke led Jasta to a squadron of hand-picked pilots, including a young, ambitious flyer named Manfred von Richthofen, who would later become the infamous Red Baron. On the French side, aces like Georges Guynemer became national heroes. Guynemer was known for his relentless aggression and his motto, "Until one has given all, one has given nothing." These aces were more than just soldiers. They were celebrities. Their exploits filled newspapers, their faces appeared on postcards, and they became symbols of national pride and defiance in a war that offered little else to celebrate. They were the modern-day knights, jousting in the clouds, and their stories captivated a public desperate for good news. While the stories of these male aces are well known, it's crucial to remember the pioneering women who also took to the skies during this era. Although they were barred from combat roles by military regulations, their contributions were vital. Women like Marie Marvingt in France, a decorated athlete and aviator, proposed using aircraft as air ambulances, and even flew bombing missions, before being officially grounded. In Russia, Princess Eugenie Shakhovskaya became one of the first female military pilots. Flying reconnaissance missions, these women faced immense societal and institutional barriers. Yet their passion for aviation and their desire to serve pushed them forward. paving the way for future generations of female pilots. They proved that courage and skill in the cockpit knew no gender. The intense competition over Verdun also fueled an incredible explosion in aviation technology. In just a few months, aircraft design leaped forward. The slow, clumsy observation planes of 1915 were replaced by faster, more agile, and more powerfully armed fighters. Machine guns became standard, and engineers worked tirelessly to improve engine power, structural integrity, and maneuverability. The German Albatros series, with its sleek, semi-monocoque fuselage, and the French Spad S7, known for its speed and ruggedness, were both direct results of the lessons learned over Verdun. This technological arms race was relentless. A state-of-the-art fighter could become obsolete in a matter of months. Pilots often flew into battle in designs that were barely tested, trusting their lives to the latest innovations from factories back home. The impact of this air war on the ground battle was profound. When the French gained air superiority, their artillery, guided by observers in balloons and aircraft, became far more effective. They could pinpoint German gun batteries, troop concentrations, and supply lines with devastating accuracy. Conversely, when the Germans controlled the sky, they could unleash their own artillery and conduct bombing raids with impunity, adding to the hellish landscape of the trenches below. Air power became a force multiplier. It didn't win the battle on its own, but it became an indispensable element of combined arms warfare. The soldiers in the mud looked to the sky, knowing that the duel happening miles above them could determine whether they lived or died in the next artillery barrage. By the end of 1916, the brutal ground battle of Verdun had claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. The air war, though fought by a relatively small number of men and women, had fundamentally changed the nature of conflict forever. The skies were no longer a passive backdrop, but a critical battlefield in their own right. The concepts of air superiority, fighter tactics, squadron formations, and the technological race for better aircraft were all forged in the fiery skies above Verdun. The legacy of those chaotic dogfights lives on in every air force around the world today. It was a brutal, deadly, but ultimately transformative chapter in military history. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this piece of history as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Let us know in the comments what piece of military history you'd like to see next. See you in the next video.